Today, we're doing a tier list of all of the legendaries in the Great Dark Beyond. But there's an unfortunate reality that must be said. Most of the cards suck at. Farseer Nobundo, 5 and a 6/4 death rattle, open the Galaxy's Lens. It absorbs the power of the next spell you cast. And that card is a 5-mana location, spell burst, absorb the spell's power. What that means for people who do not know, when you get this card on the board, the next spell you cast, this location will absorb it, and you can use that spell 2 more times without spending additional mana. That seems like a really good effect in some kind of value-oriented game. Do we see a world where a death rattle 6/4 Draenei is going to be playable? There is a Draenei that will give you rush. There's also a Draenei that I believe copies the death rattles, Velen, which we'll get to later. I'm sure at some point there will be a deck that does want to use this. It is just too good of an effect, even though it's on a very slow body, that I could see this being played. I personally believe that this card will be a C tier card. I think the problem with this card is not only do you need to draw it, but you also probably need to save a spell. I don't think it's going to be playable in current Hearthstone, unfortunately. Post rotation, this might get slightly better. Will it see play? Maybe in some kind of Highlander deck, but for the most part, I don't think this is a card that you're going to be freaking out about, if I'm going to be completely honest. We have Murmur. I love how the flavor text of this card, by the way, says what? 6 mana, 6/6 elemental. Your battlecry minions cost 1, but immediately die after being played. This is a very good card. There's actually a lot of use cases for this card, and unlike Farseer, it's very easy to slot this into any deck that runs battlecry minions. Where do I see this being played the most? I want to say maybe Elemental Shaman. This is also the same thing as Shudder Block, where it's like maybe not immediately this does see play, but at some point this card will do something disgusting. Chat, there's a card from Wizbang's Workshop called Talgath that is 4 mana that gives you battlecry minions for your spells, which makes that card infinitely better because you can now cast those cards for 1 mana, and that feels a lot better. I'm gonna actually give it a B, to be honest. I think it's just a playable card. You'll see it for sure. The Gravitational Displacer, 5 mana 4/3 Starship piece. When this is launched, summon a copy of the Starship. I personally believe that Starships are not going to be good. I think it needs to have rotation. I think it needs to be in a better metagame. The only reason I think this card might see play, is because this card exists. I think the sole reason why Starships will be playable, and we'll get to that later, I just don't really see a world. This card's going to be insane knowing what the other Starship pieces are for Rogue. I just don't see it, man. So me personally, it's somewhere here. Maybe post rotation it maybe goes up. I'm not gonna cope my way through thinking these cards are playable. Like, there's just no way. I'm gonna keep it here because I think there are cards that are infinitely worse than D. I think C's a pretty safe, might see play, will be tried out. Let's start with an absolute banger here. Maybe the best one. Talgath, 4 mana 4/4. Undamaged enemy minions take double damage combo. You do get a backstab. You know what a backstab is, chat? It's a 0 mana, deal 2 damage to an undamaged minion. This is why I didn't put the Starship in D. I don't know what this card is for. I truly don't understand what this card is for. There is a 1 mana spell that Rogue has right now that is infinitely better. You want to do way better stuff with Rogue. This is not playable, in my opinion. I think this is a 400 dust card easy. I think the reason this is printed is because it's a demon and it makes, I guess, maybe your Kil'jaeden worse or whatever. This card's so ass, it deserves its own tier. I think this card would be actually fine at a 2 mana 2/2. I could even maybe see it as a 3 mana 3/3. Unfortunate to say the least. I just feel like this is not a playable card. Dirdra Rebel Captain, 4 mana 5/4 rush, battlecry shuffle all 8 crewmates into your deck. You death battle, you draw 1. This is a really interesting design card. Chat, let's take a little bit of a vote here, guys. A little bit of a vote here. How good do you guys think the Among Us mechanic's gonna be? They're all 4 mana 4/4s. They all get like a random keyword, and they do have the adjoining crewmate, so they can summon multiple for 4 mana. After looking at all the cards yesterday and scrolling through, and I'm wondering what the synergy here is. I think this card is fine. 5/4 is okay. In a critical mass of being sus, this is going to be a fine card. Is it going to be meta defining? I don't think so. I think the Among Us Demon Hunter deck could be like, it's going to be fine on its own. I think this is a C tier card. Will the Among Us deck be better than the Legendary? I believe so. But realistically, I'm praying on Demon Hunter's downfall, so I hope they suck ass. All right, this card, I don't even know what this card is. Uluu the Everdrifter, 5 mana 6/5. Each turn this is in your hand, Gain 2 random choose 1 choices. Dude, the problem with this card is it's inconsistent. They do not stack. And most importantly, most of the choose 1 choices are really bad currently. So am I ever running in Druid specifically a 5 mana 6/5 beast with maybe a slight upside? No, I don't think so. I think it's very bad. I think it's on the same path as Talgath. You guys want its own tier list? I think they're on the same level, if I'm going to be honest. You know what the worst part about this card is, by the way? You have to draw it. The 8 hands from beyond, 8 mana, 8/8, 2 blood. The beast battlecry destroy both players' decks except the 8 highest cost cards in each. This is a very weird one because I think contextually it can be very good, but the problem is you have to put this in your deck. And against some matchups, this is not actually helping you. It's you're playing an 8 mana and they do nothing. Do we believe that double blood, which is what a lot of the cards in this expansion support this legendary? Do we think that this is going to be a helpful inclusion for the most part? Now, there is one fun combo here with this card, and that is you do get to go this into the plague deck because then you could shuffle a bunch of plagues in and that's your win condition. Like, that's kind of Disneyland though. I think you might play it. I don't think it's on the same level as these two. I think there is a potential for this card. I just don't see a world where like I'm really gonna be like, oh, let's fucking go, you know what I mean? I just think there's better cards for sure. Exarch Maladaar, 6 mana 5/5, 1 unholy battlecry. The next card you play this turn costs corpses instead of mana. Chat, we do know that mana cheating is one of the best things you could be doing in a card game. It is very good. Now, how do we feel about corpse cheating? There is a lot of potential for a card like this to do something very, very powerful on turn 5. I think realistically though, the floor for this card is very high. There's so many good cards in current rotation that will make this card very, very good. So me specifically, I'm kind of on an A tier thing. I don't think it's S tier. I think it's good. I think it will be played. All right, we have Exarch Akama, 5 mana 3/6. After this attacks, all other friendly minions can attack again except for this card. This card, in my opinion, is very scary. If you can give this rush, which you can, you have a card in your deck potentially that gives every one of your minions on board win fury. Question ends up being, how likely is that, right? Are you gonna have a big enough board? Also have the Draenei that gives you rush, and then you can swing into this, right? What if your opponent has no minions on board? Like this card just kind of sits in your hand, does nothing. It's definitely a card that you have to consider for the future, right? We're comparing this to what current warrior looks like. I don't know if we need this card. I'm gonna put it in C. I think this card is very scary, but I think most of the time it's just not gonna really do a lot. There is a real chance I'm very wrong about this card and it's like up here, but what the hell? Someone's hacking the mainframe. What the fuck was that? Spore Empress Moldara, 6 mana 6/7. Start a game, shuffle 7 replicating spores in your deck. Replicating spore is a 5 mana spell. Summon a random 5 cost minion. Your future replicating spore, summon it as well. When I first read this card, I thought this said cast when drawn. If this card was cast when drawn, disgusting. Maybe the best card of the set, but it doesn't say that. You actually have to spend the 5 mana on the first one. Do you understand how bad it is to play 5 mana, summon a random 5 cost minion? That is awful. But the longer this game goes, the 5 mana gets better and better and better because you get all the minions from the previous spores. And maybe at some point, this becomes a card that is so frustrating to deal with that your opponent just can't answer this. But dude, you're running a 6 mana 6/7 do nothing, and you're running a 5 mana get a random 5 cost spell, or 5 cost minion, sorry. I think that's really bad. I still think this is better than the Rogue Legendary and the Druid one. Honestly, the Rogue one could maybe go up here. I think the Druid one's in its own tier, but we'll leave this for the time being. The only reason I'm gonna put this in C is because if post rotation warrior truly needs another win condition in a super control deck because they have so much armor gain, this will be fun. Saruun, I don't even know how to pronounce it. 6 mana 7/6. Battlecry, give all elementals in your deck fire spell damage +1. And it's an elemental itself. I am on a huge upswing for Elemental Mage this expansion. Elemental Mage got a really fucking good set. I'm gonna be honest. They got some of the best cards in this expansion that we've seen. There is a card currently that is run in Elemental Mage. That is the 1 mana spell from Ungoro. This has potential, but most importantly, chat, this card exists. The spell damage +1 goes across every single one of these. By playing one of these, you get +7 fire spell damage later on in the game. So not only are you playing for tempo, it potentially gives you a different out. And Mage also got this dude. 3 mana 3/1 battlecry, destroy the top 3 cards of your deck. Any fire spells or elemental are drawn instead. I think that's a nutty combo. I feel like this has so much potential. It already fits into a pretty great deck and you're only making it better. I feel like it's very easy to just play this. Exarch Hataaru. 5-mana 5/5 battlecry. Discover a spell and reduce its cost by 1. If you play it this turn, repeat this effect. This card is very close to a card that we've had previously, which is the 3-mana 3/3 from Scholomance Academy for Shaman. That was a very, very good card in Shaman. It was played. This is like the closest comparison we have to that. The next turn that you play refreshes mana crystals equal to its attack. So technically speaking, if you play that first and then you play this, not only do you get a bunch of stats, you get a 5/5, but you also get to discover spells. That could be a pretty interesting combo for Mage to have. The real thing is though, I feel like this is just very easy to slot into a deck, right? Like it's just versatile. It fits into a bunch of different play patterns. It's just good. Like it's just a fine card. Fine cards are okay for Hearthstone. So let's put in view. Kara the Dark Star. 3-mana 3/3 spell burst. Steal 2 health from a random enemy. Shadow spells don't remove this spell burst. Bro, I don't understand this card. Problem with this card specifically is you need to hold shadow cards in your hand for this, and if you don't draw it, it feels really bad. If you do draw this and you just tempo it, you only get 1 spell burst unless you have the shadow spells. But then even if you have the shadow spells, your whole turn going to this, and if your opponent has a board, it just feels kind of miserable. Now there is ways to get a ton of shadow cards in your hand and play a bunch of stuff, but whatever. I just don't see it. Now there is one card we have to consider when looking at this, because it is available for this class, and that is Reverberations does exist. Summon a copy of a minion, each one dies after taking a damage. If you're going for some next level OTK, this is also just really interesting against like maybe a slower deck. You can hold this for a very long time, get a bunch of extra life so your opponent is like not gonna kill you for some reason. But I mean, we're kind of living in Disneyland, right? I don't see it. I really want to see it as someone who really likes Warlock. I don't think it's unplayable. I think it's just somewhere in C. I don't think it's nearly on this level. Gorm the Worldeater. 3-mana 12/12. Dormant for 5 turns. At the end of your turn, destroy the minion to the right of this to awaken 1 turn sooner. 3-mana 12/12, chat. That's kind of pog, no? That's a big stat line. Big minions don't generally do anything, especially if you can't just like cheat him out and give him charge or anything like that. This doesn't even have rush, so even when it awakens, it doesn't do a lot. This card is made for either 2 things. Play this and just have a huge bomb that's going to come out in 5 turns, or, which is the more important thing here, is getting this card this set to put next to this. Now here's the problem, chat. If you don't play another minion, this will just eat this. Like it'll eat the egg burster after. I don't see a world where Hunter feels okay with like just playing a 3-mana 12/12 in the hopes that you actually have the egg. Chat, is there any other card that you could think of that you would want to eat? Nerubian egg is in the set. So basically any eggs. So how many eggs we got in standard right now then? Is Egg Hunter going to be a real thing? Breakfast Hunter? You're probably not using this for the 12/12. You're probably using it for the line of text, no? I don't know. I feel like it maybe has potential. I don't think it's unplayable. I think I'm going to give it a C as well. Also, if this is in your deck and you're running this egg, like you can get more copies of this. How do we feel about this? Exarch Naielle? I think it's Naielle, right? I don't know. 3-mana 3/4 battle card. Replace your hero power tracking. Discover a card from your deck. Okay, so Hunter gets this one potentially. We have this. I think this card's pretty poggers. This card's obviously better the more you discover because you're tracking. This card's obviously pretty decent. Like I think Hunter is okay with playing this for tracking. This is an A. Again, I don't think it's meta defining. I think it's just very good. I think it will be played. I think it's very easy to slot into any deck you want. Cure the Light Beyond. 3-mana 3/3 spell burst. Summon a random 3-cost minion. Holy spells don't remove this spell burst. What priest deck wants this? That's a great question. Thanks for asking. Does a random 3-cost minion with a bunch of holy spells seem really good in Hearthstone? I feel like removal's too good for this card to really matter. I'm gonna put it in C. Again, I don't think it's unplayable. There might be a chance where this actually gets played, but for the most part, I just don't like it. Oh, Askara, 5-mana 4/5 battle cry. The next Draenei you play summons a copy of itself. Now this is a card that is very interesting. This entire thing is based on how good Draenei are going to be. So let's go take a peek, shall we, about how good Draenei are going to be. This is probably the dream. You go into Askara and then you play this and you get a bunch of boys that are really annoying to deal with and they have to get through. Like this could be fucking crazy, bro. So you basically have 2 options, right? You're either going for the 6-mana dude or you're going for Velen. Do we think that's good enough? I mean, realistically, dude, if you get to go Askara into Velen, it's kind of cinema, no? Like you're probably doing work there because then the Velen will trigger the Askara and it feeds into itself more. And it's like, maybe there's potential. Like this one looks a lot better than this because I could see the potential with a card like this. The potential's good. The floor's not bad. The floor's not bad. Like it's a card that's very easy to use. You just have to use it at the right time. But is it too Disneyland to think that would happen that often? It's somewhere here. I'm gonna do B. I I believe in it. Kil'jaeden, 7 mana, 7/7 battlecry. Replace your deck with an endless portal of demons. Each turn they gain an additional +2/+2. I think this card's fucking cool as shit. Quite frankly, I think it's a card that I want to play a ton with, and I think it's really, really awesome that they made a card like this. It's really cool in like late game value decks. It's really cool in any kind of fatigue matchup. Let's imagine a world you play this on turn 7. That is a 7 mana 7/7 do nothing. Then all of a sudden you get demons with +2/+2, +4/+4, +6/+6, +8/+8. The problem is, bro, is most demons in Hearthstone aren't very good, unfortunately. There's a lot of shitters. A lot of them are just kind of just stat sticks, unfortunately. And there's such a, like, look how many demons there are, chat. There's literally fucking 48 of them. So the variance here is insane. Like, what if you draw this guy, dude? Like, are you even happy? I don't know, man. I really want this card to be good. I think what Kil'jaeden is going to be known for is either you are going to ramp into this as fast as possible, and then you play this as early as possible so that you start stacking the demons faster and faster and faster and faster, right? That's one game plan. The second plan is you put this in a deck for a very late game situation, because if you're going against Priest is just passively answering your cards, all of a sudden you have this win condition that they have to do something about. Or, which is probably going to be more applicable, you put this in your ETC and you wait for the moment where you, in the specific matchup, Kil'jaeden is going to help you out. I think this card is the coolest one in the set, and therefore it's an, I'm kidding, it's probably like a C tier. It's not D. It will probably see play. I think it's going to be more niche, unfortunately. Chat, this is the most important card of the set, in my opinion. The most important card. I have talked about how I feel that starships aren't that powerful. You're playing a lot of mediocre things for a bigger payoff. This is the only reason I think you're running those starships. This card is the nuts. And it's not because you get an 8 mana 6/10 on top of your starship. You get protocols, right? You get gain armor equal to the starship's health. You get deal damage equal to the starship's attack randomly split between all enemies. And you also get the crew transport, which you get all of those starship pieces back in your hand for one. So if they do kill your starship, all of a sudden you get another starship, right? That's really cool. This is the one reason why I think the mechanic might actually be playable. Do we believe that starships will be playable? I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic here and say that this card is going to be the reason why they're playable, and I'm putting it in a deck. Because at least worst case scenario, you do get to deal damage immediately. You do get all of them back, so if they remove them, you don't feel like shit, or you can just get a bunch of armor, right? And that's awesome. The Ceaseless Expanse, 100 mana, 15/15, cost 1 less for each time a card was drawn, played, or destroyed. Battlecry, destroy all other minions. The thing is about this card, when I first saw it, I said to myself, is this playable? Like, when is this playable in a game? But the more I thought about it, the more I think about how likely you are to actually get this down pretty low. Shut it go low, 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 low. What do you mean you just cringe to death? Let me ask you guys a question. Would you guys play a 5 mana 15/15 in Hearthstone? Would you guys play a 7 mana 15/15? 7 mana 15/15 is an interesting question, right? But what if you also added a board clear to it? And this card's really cool too, because it only gets expedited based on what your opponent is doing as well, right? So it comes down to being like maybe it's not going to be super useful in the early game, obviously, but obviously the longer the game goes on, you always have this thing in the back pocket. Also, chat, Shadow Step exists. You know what also exists, chat? Breakdance. Not only can you get this, you can also get a 15/15 again. That's kind of sick, no? Also, I feel like rotation, this card's gonna be very, very good. Of course, in Wild, there will be the Holy Wrath Paladin deck, but this is for Standard, so I think this card is very playable. I'm gonna put a B. I think like Rogue could get this down like realistically on like turn 6 if they really wanted. Xor'toth, Breaker of Stars. 6 mana 5/5. Battle Cry, add 2 stars to both sides of your hand. When they collide, deal 5 damage to all enemies. This card's really interesting because of how these work. They go to like the side of your hand, and as you play cards in the middle, this goes, you know, obviously towards the center, and then you do 5 to everything. It's a card that your opponent does have to think about. I think this card slaps so much ass in an aggro deck. I think it's an ass clapper. It's gonna get behind, and it's gonna give you the business. It's very easy in an aggro deck to make this happen, because you would play a 6 mana 5/5, deal 5 damage to all enemies. I don't think you put this in a late game control deck. So because of that reason, I am going to put this in C. Actually, I'll put it in C. I'm not sure how good that deck will be. That's the problem. But I feel like this card is pretty pog. It's maybe the first tier list I've ever done where like there's no cards in S. Archimonde, 7 mana 7/7 battlecry, summon every demon you played this game that didn't start in your deck. What do we want to use this for? Well, let's go take a look at what Warlock is getting this expansion, shall we? Okay, we're getting Abduction Ray. That's pretty cool. Oh, Infernal Stratagem, right? 3 mana, give a minion +3/+3 if it's a demon. Your next one costs 2 less. That's kind of exciting. Foreboding Flame. We're also buffing Demonic Dynamics to 2 mana, by the way. Yo, Leo, quick question for you. When you step outside your house, is this the first thing you see? Sorry. So then we go back to Kil'jaeden, because Kil'jaeden's where is going to come in handy. All right, that's do we think there's a world where this card will be playable? Maybe it's actually not Disneyland. Again, most of the demons suck ass, so like that's the problem. I don't think it's D. It's definitely something you can consider. Velen, leader of the Exiled, 7 mana, 7/7 taunt death rattle, trigger the battle cries and death rattles of all other Draenei you have played this game. Okay, so this card is the culmination of everything that you have built towards. It is an easy card to put in your deck if you are running Draenei. In fact, if you don't put this card in your deck when you're running Draenei, you should seek medical attention. Like, I think this is a huge card. I think it's so easy to put this in your deck. I feel like this card is going to be very good. I think Draenei actually have a chance to be very playable with a card like this. Also, I am so much higher stonks on what Draenei are compared to Starships this expansion. And I think this is the highest of A's. I'm not sure about S tier. This card can definitely be good, but what battle cries and death rattles are you wanting to repeat? There's nothing that just wins you the game. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're cooking. Let me cook real fast. Hold on. I'm not going to get swayed that easily, Skull. You're nothing. Well, we're actually getting no Draenei, so realistically, the card's probably bad. I mean, it's definitely got potential. It's definitely something to consider. There's also like Draenei I'm not even considering from the expansion, right? Like there's more. Skull, you make a convincing case though. I'm not gonna lie to you. All right, I think B's fine. What if you copy him? Can he loop himself? I don't think he can loop himself. Exarch Othaar, 4 mana 3/3 battle cry. If you're building a Starship, get 3 different arcane spells and reduce their cost by 2. This is also a Draenei, so it's important to know that it does work with Mr. Velen over there. People seem to be, and I kind of agree with this. I do think that Druid Starship is definitely one of the better ones, so it's not that bad. Also, we have to pay attention to what the arcane spells and what Druid is basically getting for the set. So let's go take a peek, shall we? I mean, the problem is the more classes you add to this, though, the worse it is. Actually, I mean, now that you look at it, you can't get this. So like if you get like Shooting Star, like you're gonna cry. Rewind, I guess, can be good. I just feel like the problem is, chat, like Druid can do better stuff than this. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna give it a C because like maybe it has potential with Starships. Again, we truly don't know how good they're gonna be, but like I personally don't see it. And then we have Shaffar, also known as Schaefer, my best friend. 3 mana 3/3 Nexus-Prince Shaffar, Spellburst. Give a minion in your hand +3/+3 in this Spellburst. So when I first saw this card, I thought it was unplayable because the problem with this card is that there is like literally nothing you want to do with it. Until people realized that you, as a gamer, you can play like this cheese deck, which uses like the bargain bin Buccaneer with a bunch of stats, and you can also skip your opponent's turn, and it's like, bro, like what are we doing? Like, you know what I mean? I guess there's potential for it, but honestly, I'm still iffy on it. I don't know. I mean, it's playable now, so like unfortunately for me, I have to kind of put it at like a C or B, right? Yrel, Beacon of Hope, 5 mana 4/3 rush. Death will get 3 different Librams from an older timeline. Chat, I'm gonna be honest with you. After the buffs to Libram, they were pretty great. And this is a Draenei, most importantly. So this could work with Velen. Remember that. Libram of Justice, Libram of Hope, Libram of Wisdom. That's it. Wait, aren't they missing one? Okay, I'm gonna evaluate it based on this thing. If you can only get these 3 specifically. If that's the case, this card's nuts. Because like consistently, if you get all 3 of these, you're pretty stoked. So like, I think that's fine. I think you're okay with that. If you get Libram of Justice, Libram of Hope, and Wisdom guaranteed, you're like pretty stoked. I'm not gonna lie to you. So that's pretty awesome. On top of that, in the Great Dark Beyond, Paladin is getting Librams, right? Paladin is getting a Libram of Faith, which is a 6 mana summon 3/3 Draenei with Divine Shield that costs 0. If this costs 0, give them Rush. That's kind of exciting. 2 mana 2/2 Battlecry Spellburst, draw a Libram. That's fucking amazing. I didn't know this card existed. We also got Libram of Divinity, 4 mana, give a minion +3/+3. If this costs 0, return this to your hand at the end of your turn. Libram of Clarity, 3 mana, draw 2 minions. If this costs 0, give them +2/+1. And we have the way to reduce them with the Wayfarer and the Weapon. Now, on top of that, chatters, which is very important to note, I believe Lady Liadrin is in standard, is she not? Oh, it's because it's friendly cast. Hold on, my bad. She's in standard, which is actually a really big deal because this card was one of the reasons why Librams was so good. Now we don't have Penflinger. That means every Libram starts to get a lot better because you get this infinite generation, and that means every minion you play gets a lot better. If it's any idea of how good it was in the previous times, or the previous time, it's pretty good. Now that did require a lot of buffs to Libram Paladin. This card's actually really interesting with this, right? Because then you get to play both if they're reduced enough. Bro, I'm kind of a believer here. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's probably an A tier thing. It's actually this seems really good. Last but not least here, chatters, Lumia, 6 mana 9/9 lifesteal. After a hero takes damage, they become immune for the rest of the turn. I don't know, y'all. It's a pretty spicy effect, eh? Let's start off with a card I think is a pretty good comparison to this. Let's talk about all both here. 6 mana 3/9. Whenever your hero takes damage, this minion takes it instead. This is a horrible card. The reason why this card was so bad is because your opponent would play this and then you would just go face and they spent 6 mana for nothing. This is the evolution of this. It evolved like a Pokemon. So now we're at Lumia. The cool thing about Lumia is that your opponent can't just go face and kill the minion for free. You have to actually answer this card because you can no longer just go face and ignore it. Now, does this just die to removal? Yeah. You're playing a control deck. Do you care? Not really. So what is this card used for then? It's used for an anti-aggro card. I kind of like it. It's good against combo too. That's also true, right? But it's nice that they designed it like this because that means you can't just play this and then you get to go face, right? Like you also have to fight for the board. Paladin's looking pretty good. I think it has potential. I actually think it's pretty decent. I think 6 mana 9/9 stat line too with this effect is very good. Anyways, that's my GLS chat. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to tell me I'm stupid